Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card uses this new set by Gerda Steiner Designs called Oh Manatee. It is the cutest set I've ever seen and I'm so excited about it. I'm also using this underwater collage die, and then I'm using Vertigo paper. This paper is best described as 3D, I would guess. It's kind of plasticky, but it's very thin and you can cut it with no problem. So this pattern is called Rattlesnake. There's a bunch of different patterns. I'm going to use some Stays-On blue ink, and I'm going to do a direct to paper here. And the reason why, I tried it with a sponge dauber, but it's textured. So it was kind of hard with the sponge dauber. It just didn't smoothly cover this Vertigo paper. But it was really easy to do with the direct to paper. However, it is really, really dark. So I'm gonna lighten it up in just a second. Now, if you don't have Stays-On, you could use alcohol inks. You wanna use some kind of permanent ink. So you could even use Copic markers if you want to. All right, so I'm gonna take a paper towel and I'm gonna use one to protect my fingers. And I'm just gonna quickly just rub the paper towel. You can see that the blue is coming off here. And I just really wanna lighten it up, but it doesn't completely remove it, it just lightens the blue. So it's a really great way to have something in your background that's not too dark. All right, so you can see now I'm gonna hold this up, how cool this paper looks, and it totally looks like waves. I also use this paper in a fishbowl, and I'll link to that, with a different pattern. Now I have Stays-On my craft mat now, and this is an alcohol wipe, and you can see it just quickly comes up. And I also use these for my Copic markers if I get them on my craft mat. So one little swab, I got it at the grocery store, a whole bunch of them, and then just wipe it down. I'm gonna reuse this paper towel because I'm very frugal, and find a clean spot and just wipe away the alcohol, and now I'm brand new. Next, I'm going to stamp all my images. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink on Nina Solar White cardstock. I'm going to stamp my manatee. And what I love about this set is it has two fish facing in different directions, which sometimes you only get one direction with fish, and I like to have them swimming both ways. So I'm going to color my manatee here with C4 all along the edges. You can see I kind of created a flipper there at the bottom. And then I'm going to take C2 and I'll color a little bit further in. And then I will take my C1 and finish it out. I'm going to leave his nose for last after I get the rest of him figured out here. I forgot the flipper, so I went back in with the C2 and then added some C1. Next, I'm going to go back to the nose, and I always use the two lightest colors on the nose because I want it to seem like it's closer to me, so it would get more light that way. And now I'm coloring around the nose, and that will make it look like it's going toward the back. Now I'm going to grab a C6 and I'm going to just go a little bit in the most areas with the most shadow. And I'm going to be very light-handed with this, but it's going to give it just that extra little bit of dimension. And because it's still wet from all the other markers that I used, it really kind of blends out on its own. Now notice that I didn't really worry about staying in the line because I'm going to be cutting this out. So I'm going to add a little bit to the flipper down here. Now the only thing about adding this is that I now have to go back through the sequence of the C4, the C2, and the C1. So I'm also going to do that, and I forgot on top of his nose here and around his arm a little bit. Okay, so here I'm going with the C4, blending that in a little bit, and then the C2, and then actually I ended on the C2. I didn't do any C1. I figured I did enough blending. All right, I'm going to move on to my fish. I'm going to color these pretty simply. I'm going to take Y11 and color the front, and then I'll take Y15 and just color the whole back, all one color. And then I'm going to take my YR04 and I'm going to add some dots. I'm going to start with heavy, thick dots in the back, and then as I move toward the front of the fish, I'm going to make my dots a little bit further spread out and a little smaller. And I'm going to do the same thing with all three of these fish. Now for the cup of tea, I'm going to use just two colors, E55 just along the edge, and then E53 to finish blending it. Now for the tea inside, I grabbed an E99 just because it was more of a tea color and colored the liquid in there. I don't have the dies for this set, so I'm just going to cut them all out with a scissor. I forgot the little mouth on the manatee. I'm just going to fill that in with the RV00. I'm going to work on my background. I have a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Nina Solar White, and I'm going to center my underwater collage in the middle and cut it out. And then I realized that my Vertigo paper, I didn't cut it wide enough. I kind of just grabbed a piece that was already in there, assuming it would be wide enough. But then I realized if I kind of slant it a little bit, then it will fit and cover all the holes. So in advance, make sure you have the right size piece. Okay, so if you can see as I tilt it, I get it all covered. So I'm going to move that off and add some Tombow Mono Multi Glue all over the entire back, because even though it's going to be outside the Vertigo paper, I'm going to adhere this to the card base afterwards. So I'm going to place this down and just make sure that it covers all the holes and little pieces here. And then I will add some more Tombow glue on top of the Vertigo paper that's not showing in the water. So it's just kind of adhered to the white cardstock. So I'll put some Tombow glue on that part, and then I'll flip it over and put it onto a card base. So it has a 1/8 of an inch mat all the way around. So I'm just going to center it there and press it down. Now I'm going to take an acrylic block and I'm going to put it on top and just leave it there to dry a little bit while I work on the sentiment. I'm going to white emboss this on black cardstock. And the thing about this sentiment is I felt like there was a little bit too much space in between. So I wanted to show you my Fiskars trimmer. It's a very inexpensive trimmer and it has a wire that goes through the center. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little wire and it tells you exactly where it's going to cut. Now it's not the highest quality wire. It's a little crooked, like bent in places, but for the most part, it's pretty straight on so that I know exactly how I'm cutting this. And you can see I'm cutting such a thin piece off of this cardstock, and I can get exactly right up close to the sentiment with this trimmer. So it's not my favorite trimmer for cutting card bases and bigger panels, but for tiny pieces, it's great. And plus it has a 1/16 of an inch measurement. So I have 2 pieces now for my sentiment, and I've laid out all of my elements where I want them to be. I'm going to put some Tombow glue behind my manatee. I'm just using some tweezers to hold it and place it down. And then for the other pieces, because they're small, I'm just going to use some 2-way glue, and then the same thing for the cup of tea. There's a second part to this sentiment which makes it so adorable. So I'm going to stamp that on the inside with some Memento ink. And then that third fish that I colored, I'm going to put it right underneath there. To make the meaning of this a little more clear, I decided to add a tea bag. So I just drew a square and then added a line with my Copic multi-liner. And then I think it makes a little bit more sense. So here is the card. The water just looks so cool. I love this Vertigo paper. And then of course I have that funny sentiment on the inside. I just love this set. It's just so adorable. And I love the smiley manatee. He's cute but not cutesy, and that's what I love. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.